Hi, I'm Miss Lonnie. Welcome to Art V, art and music from the road. Won't you come in? This is Guinevere. I hope you'll journey along with us as we go to cool places and meet new artists. Recently, I visited Eagle, Colorado, where I met up with two talented young sisters, Dylan and Drew Dodds. Drew has a fantastic singing voice, and her sister Dylan is a budding young visual artist who paints on everything from garden walls to rocks to Ugg boots. I had a chance to talk with Dylan in her backyard. We had a nice social distance visit. Let's check that out.
I'm here in Eagle, Colorado with the artist Dylan. She did this lovely garden design here with these Ugg boots with the beautiful aspen trees and mountains on them. How long have you been doing art, Dylan?
Oh, since I can remember, from little scribbles of random people and weird like candy things when I was little to now in art class and boots and just things that people commissioned me to do.
So what made you decide to paint on Ugg boots?
My mom handed me her Uggs along with some fabric paint and goes, make these pretty. So I did.
It's a great way, experimentation. What do you want to do with your art career?
Just make people happy with it, I guess. Just whatever I can.
That is so beautiful. That's so beautiful. So see, kids, you don't have to have like any huge aspirations to be an artist. Anybody can be an artist. Anybody who wants to paint can be an artist. You just have to do it.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Dylan.
Of course.
All right, bye-bye.
Let's have a look at some more of Dylan's art. Remember, when you're looking at art, look for these 5 elements. It'll just make you a better artist. Lines, shapes, color, texture, and space. That makes me just want to spruce up my old Ugg boots. Today we're going to be using markers and paint to decorate rocks. So let's get started. I have prepared my surface with some paper underneath to protect my table. I have collected some of the supplies I'm going to use today. You might be doing something totally different. You might be doing it all in markers. I do recommend permanent markers if you're going to do that, but you can use regular markers and then seal it with some Mod Podge or some kind of a sealant at the end. And I think on this one I'm going to do an owl. So I have some water, and I have some paint brushes, and I have some paint. I have a pencil here that's going to help just kind of draw a little bit of the design I want to do. So I'm going to start with a kind of a heart shape for the head of the owl. It doesn't have to be perfect. In fact, it can look like it's turning its head one way or another if it's not. So I just put a little heart shape. Same thing. And I'm drawing upside down, so please forgive my lines, which I never care about perfect lines anyway. So now I just have 3 basic shapes that are going to help make my owl up. This just shows you which area I'm going to work in. I'm going to start with my medium-sized brush. I'm going to get it wet first. I'll do outlines later. Right now I'm just trying to get the basic colored background. I'm mixing some water into one of the whites that I've prepared. I can even go into the middle here. Now if you just have a paper plate, that's fine. You can use anything as a palette. You may want to switch to a smaller brush once you get to the end of adding your background color. Remember, this doesn't have to be white. You could do it black or brown or any color you want. I'm just getting a white base for this. While this rock is drying, I'm going to do a more abstract type design on this little rock here. Okay, I think I'm just about happy with that. I'm going to let that dry and see how my other rock's doing, to see if I can go back to painting that. An outline for the top of the head. So with an outline I can do one of two things. I can go to using the markers now for the outline, or I can paint the lines. That's really up to you. Now I need a nice small brush. Now let's talk about the care of your paintbrushes. Whenever you're using a paintbrush, the bristles on the ends can get really messed up if you really squish your paintbrush. So if you take a brush and you squish it, I mean, it can make some nice texture squishing and things like that, but you want to be careful because you don't want to give your paintbrush a bad hairdo by doing that. You want it to be nice and flat like that. So take care of your paintbrushes, and after you're done, wash them carefully with soap and water, and then you can reshape them with your fingers too once they're wet and dry, or they can just dry like this, or maybe just on a paper towel or something is fine as well. Okay, so I'm going to take my small brush and I'm going to use some of that paint I was using, but I'm going to go into the white a little bit. Now I have fresh white over here that I haven't used yet, and I want to mix that with a little water, and then I'm going to carefully paint an outline around it. You'll find that when you're painting on things like rocks that have bumpy surfaces, sometimes your paintbrush will move a way that you don't expect it to, or you don't want it to. But that's okay, just let the little accidents happen. It adds to it, and you just don't know what it's going to look like until it's done. So let that be okay. Don't worry too much. And then when you think you're ready, you want to let this layer dry. Now while you're waiting for your paint to dry, you might practice drawing different designs or eyes or things that you're going to add to your rock. That's always fun to do. You can, in fact, you can draw a picture ahead of time that you want to put on your rock as well. So now I'm going to use the Sharpie in a similar color to put some patterns on the wings. And so I think what I'm going to do is just start with some feathering type shapes. So I'm going to do little U's. And then I have a little feathering design there for now. I'm going to add more to it later, but for now that's good. And maybe on this side I'll just do something that's a little different than that, so it doesn't look exactly the same on both. So I think on this one I'm just going to give it some simple curved lines. Where the eyes are, I'm going to do an outline of eyes, but I might go in and paint a different color or put Sharpie in a different color. You want to make sure your paint's nice and dry for this, because it will ruin the tips of the markers or the Sharpies that you have if you stick it in wet paint. Make a beak. A beak can be made in so many different ways, just like any of this owl can be made in so many different ways. So I'm just going to make a nice shape for a beak that comes out to a point and goes back in, and then maybe there's a second little part here. There we go. You see that? The next thing I'm going to do is add my final designs to both the wings by using some polka dots. I'm going to go around the head with some polka dots. So for that I'm going to get myself some nice fresh white to work with. Also, a couple of hints, helpful hints are, have a wet wipe available for wiping your hands off in case you get paint on them, and also a paper towel for cleaning your paintbrush off and wiping it dry when you need to. Like that, yeah. Go into the white. I did get some fresh water as well. You want to change your water often. And don't put too much in, because you don't want it to, if it spills over, it's not too big of a deal, put it that way. Alright, so I'm taking this now and I'm just going to start at the middle and just simply add polka dots on top of my outline to give it a little extra texture. So I've went all around my outline with the polka dots for texture. Now I'm going to clean my brush off, and I'm going to do more polka dots, but now I'm going to do colored polka dots inside the feathering areas. I'm going to start with the darker purple. I'm going to go inside the striped area and just put some little polka dots here and there. Spread them around. And remember, your rock does not have to be an owl. It can be anything you want. It can be a random design that goes on this. On this I might continue with polka dots of just all white or different colors, things like that, maybe swirls. There's so many things you can do. It can be an abstract design, which means little or no relation to a real object, or it might be an owl. You might do buildings or shoes, whatever you would like. That's the great thing about being an artist. Now I've put in some forest green. It's kind of a blue-green here. I'm going to take a little white over there into another area and mix it in for my eyes. Just want to make something that is a different color for my eyes. Now I'm going to take that. I put a little water in it. Make it a little smoother. The fun part is mixing the color that you want. You can add little touches of different colors too. You might even put a little bit of that violet in there to see what happens. When you get the color that you like, I'm just going to go and paint the inside of the eyes. I'm going to come back later and put some white dots for highlight. But for now, I'm just going to paint the insides with some blue. After I put the color in, I went ahead and added a little outline of black around the eyes and the beak, and even put the dots in with black. I just wanted to sharpen that up a little bit to make it a little bit more clear. So now I have my two rocks that are finished, and the final touch is adding a little Mod Podge for some shine. It also seals the rock, so if you want to put it back outside somewhere, you can do that, like in a rock garden. To add Mod Podge, you want a nice dry rock so it doesn't smear. Nice dry clean paintbrush as well. Dip it in and get some of the Mod Podge off the side of the brush. It'll look like it's white, but it's going to dry clear. And there's a shiny Mod Podge that you can get, a glossy, that makes it really shiny, or a matte that just gives it a nice finish, but it's not necessarily as shiny. Matte means flat, gloss is shiny. I hope you'll join us next time on Art V, where we go to Green Valley, California, and we visit the artist Janine Cooper Ayers. Bye.
I love the sunshine and flowers. I could stay here for hours, playing in the sprinkler like a shower. Good times in the sunshine. Good times in the sunshine. I see rainbows and butterflies. Had a picnic and I ate a whole pie. Sometimes I wish that I lived in the sky. Good times in the sunshine. Good times in the sunshine. Good times in the sunshine. Good
Don't forget to subscribe, comment, and like. See you next time on Art V.